media is actively gaslighting workers about the economy. And what's even more disgusting, I've seen a Bernie Sanders live stream, one of the few.
No.
And Bernie Sanders is one of the people that go along with this. He was like, yeah, we deserve credit. Me and Biden and the people he work with, we deserve credit for what we did with the economy. So we are in a disgusting position when people who claim they're activists and advocates of the worker who are now doing Democratic Party propaganda. That is who Bernie Sanders is. And now you got the media teaming with the progressives like AOC and Bernie Sanders that is gaslighting people. I'm going to show you guys a few headlines. And I'm going to show you the story from The Guardian where they want people to spread even more propaganda on behalf of the Biden administration because this is the most important election of our lifetime. So this is the corporate media with writers who are millionaires, who are paid by billionaires, telling the average working class person that the economy is going well because of stock market, GDP, and other bullshit that is a representative of how rich people are doing, essentially. So here's one headline. U.S. economy going strong under Biden. Americans don't believe it. Here's another one. And this is the funniest one of all. This is absolute liberal code. Biden's economic policies have quietly, CJ, quietly made people's lives better, and no one seems to care. CJ, why don't the fucking peasants praise the politicians for making rich people richer, I guess? And it shows how deranged liberals are. Liberals are so deranged, they expect us to praise politicians because the rich is doing really well. That's essentially what it is. That's when you look at the GDP, stock market, all that garbage is a reflection of rich people. And I have this question to liberals who pretending to be pro-union, pro-worker. I have a question for Bernie Sanders and the progressives who going along with this lie that Biden had this great economy. How do you reconcile the fact that so many workers are upset and wanting to strike with the idea that we have a good economy? Not only do we have the UAW that wanted to strike, we have multiple strikes over the last year or two. And then not only do we have multiple strikes, multiple workers unionizing, we have even more workers who can't unionize, who can't strike, who want to, CJ. Imagine how many workers out there who want to strike. Yeah. So when you ask RBN, how will we analyze the economy? What metrics will we use, CJ? I don't know. I would use workers' discontent as one of them. How angry? What is the feeling of the working class? Do they feel they got more spending money? Are they okay with their job? Are they ready to strike? Just for one example, I'll also use happiness. Most Americans are prescribed and taking pills at record levels. Millions of Americans taking antidepressants, all these bullshit, and people think that's normal. The first time in human history. And then scientists tell you, the capitalist propagandists tell you, well, the reason why we're doing it is because your brain is broken. Your brain is broken. You can't comprehend that you live in the bullshit system without having a job that have any meaning. We have workers and you have the society that constantly telling you that you aren't worth a living wage, and people are depressed and people wonder why. Our society is garbage, not as great as people think. Happiness. The fact that so many Americans are unhappy on depression pills, don't have a clear trajectory in life is another metric I would use. You guys see how this is completely different than how the establishment will view the economy? Talking about ridiculous nonsense like, oh man, you know the GDP is up? The only thing that matters is the GDP of your household, fam. CJ, you have anything else you want to add before I move on to the next one?
Yeah, no, I'm going to add to the story. I don't know if this is because I just want to add the fact of the Biden propaganda. It's not necessarily about the economy, though. So maybe, So let me add. So then I can add.
I think you can show that after the Guardian. I think.
Okay, then let's do that. Let's do that.
Because it's good that you got Biden propaganda, and I'm gonna show you can show an example of that. So this is, despite I just pulled two stories quickly, literally while I was live just now. I just typed in Biden economy. You already see multiple gaslighting stories about the economy. And now this is from The Guardian. This was written on Friday by Margaret Sullivan, where The Guardian is actively calling for more media propaganda, more media outlets to just straight up turn to pro-Biden propaganda. You want to know why, CJ? Because democracy is on the ballot. This is why I wanted to show you guys this first. Because if you guys think this memo wasn't released weeks before this article was approved, why you guys think that Cal Kalinske and Crystal Ball all of a sudden switched their politics as we showed you guys? I told you guys weeks ago they was recruited somehow by some extreme power, and now this is the big pressure that comes from establishment media and people who want to be establishment media. Don't even pretend to be non-biased. You need to lie and be propagandist on behalf of the Democratic Party. And she's calling for the mainstream press to change their ways. So this is multiple layers of propaganda, CJ. Multiple layers. That's why she is writing this story, because in order to write the story, you had to pretend that the media is non-biased as it is right now. Right? So she's doing multiple tasks at once. Like, this is stuff that David Pakman and all these amateur propagandists, they can't pull off. Like, this, when I read this, like, God damn, I have to cover this because this is sophisticated, high-level propaganda, that this kind of shit that trick boomers, right? The people who still attached to the Democratic Party, right? And this is what she said. We have to be truthful, not neutral. I would make sure that you don't just give a platform to those who want to crash down the Constitution and democracy. And this is kind of a preview to the story we're going to do later, when people were melting down about Meet the Press, melting down about CNN Town Hall. So what she is calling for is a mass media blackout of the leading challenger for president. Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. So it's our duty to black out and not ever cover him ever. But look at these bullet points here. Well, she's complaining that media organizations are complaining about Biden's age. She said news organizations turn Biden's age, granted a legitimate concern, into equivalent of a scandal. And story after story, headline after headline, they emphasize not his administration's accomplishments, but the fact that he's 80. So she's immediately exposing herself as a DNC plan here. Because what she is saying that most media should be focusing on all the good stuff Biden has done. What does that sound like? That's exactly what Kyle Kulinski was telling you guys, right? You guys see this memo that's going around? Don't focus on the negatives of Biden. Focus on the positives, the shit that actually doesn't matter in people's lives. I'm going to move on quickly because this article is very hilarious. And now she talked about the evidence-free Biden impeachment efforts of the House. So she's telling people in this paragraph, to sum it up, that we got to, as a media class, attack the impeachment probe and immediately say that it's evidence free. We immediately say that the Republicans are being extremists for doing this, even though the Democrats did the same thing as Trump is president. And as Democrats are trying to impeach Trump, Democrats are trying to throw their leading opposition in prison. Which one is more extreme? But one more thing I want to read. I want to make sure I get to this quote, because this whole article is absurd. But this part right here says it all. I'm going to start from here. And media leaders will think hard about the big picture of what they're trying to get across to the public and whether it is fair and truthful. Imagine if the New York Times, among others, has stopped and done a course correction on their over-the-top coverage of the Clinton emails during the 2016 campaign. We might be living in a different world. Stop covering the corruption of the Democratic Party. That's what she's calling on. That's what she wants to do with Biden regarding the Biden corruption scandal. And I'll show you guys a clip of a Republican absolutely dismantling this media operative that was saying, "Oh, there's no evidence." He's like, there's 20 shell companies under Biden's name. You got whistleblowers. What the? You guys understand? Impeachment inquiry is exactly that, an inquiry. Right. So they were saying that they're saying that we're not even allowed to look into these very credible things. Like, why do Biden have 20 shell companies? No, don't look into that. You can't do inquiry. You can't learn stuff. Learning stuff is fascism. Learning stuff is dangerous. That's the legitimate argument that the extreme Democratic Party is making. But anyway, the next part is actually the worst part. And we can move on to this. The Nobel Prize winning economist, Paul Krugman.
Yeah, I saw that.
We covered this story, CJ. Pointed out last week that the media apparently has failed to communicate something that should be a huge asset for Biden: the U.S. current Goldilocks economy. So she's quoting Paul Krugman here, critiquing the media that the media is not they're not fanboys, sycophants of Biden the same way that Paul Krugman is. They see the article that Paul Krugman wrote, where Paul Krugman said Biden had the Goldilocks economy. And this reporter is saying that we should have more stories like that, CJ. Like
more lies, more lies.
2/3 of Americans are unhappy about the economy, despite reports that inflation is easing and unemployment is close to a 50-year low, according to a new Harris poll for The Guardian. So, guys, stop telling the truth about how American people are feeling pain. Stop telling the truth how people, the workers' spending power has decreased. Food insecurity, aka hunger, is at record levels. Millions are unemployed. Thousands and thousands and millions will kick off their health care by Joe Biden. Right? Don't talk about none of that stuff. The media job is to do unapologetic propaganda on behalf of the Democratic Party, said by The Guardian.